Namaskaram. Hello there. Sudha Ragunathan here with Expressions Espresso Season 3. A very good evening. I am still recovering from the happiness of last week's open hearted conversation with Suhasini Maniratnam. And I'm sure all of you are too. How very warm and spontaneous she was, while taking us through some of her most cherished moments and treasured relationships. Thank you, Hasini, for being just you and for joining us and made a wonderful evening of last Saturday. Here we are now, ready for our next special guest of Expressions Espresso this evening. Again, there's so much to ask and so much to know. I hope we're able to do all of that within the stipulated time, as we need to respect our guests' time too. The title Chocolate Boy has stuck on to him ever since his first film, and he still carries that reputation with much ease. A pan Indian and international star, he has a fan following across all ages and genders. So here I am going to once again clarify, reiterate on what I always harp on. People from all over the world are watching this program. This is not a typical regional Tamil program, so please bear with us when we converse in English, as everyone has to follow our conversation. தமிழ்ல பேசுறது எவ்வளவு முக்கியமோ அவ்வளவு முக்கியம் நாம பேசுறது மற்றவங்களுக்கு எட்டுறது. அதனால அப்பப்போ தமிழ்ல பேசுறோம், ஆங்கிலத்துல நிறைய பேசுவோம். An engineer by academics, an actor by profession, a humanitarian at heart, this rock star has also ventured into direction, script writing, production, and else. The versatile and multifaceted powerhouse of talent gets into the skin of his character with great elan and virtually lives the roles. He has made us smile, cry, laugh out loud, and has sent young women into a tizzy with his romantic interludes in each of his films, a real wholesome package for his viewers. He has played basketball during his younger days and now makes time for golf as well. As a motivational speaker, another dimension of him, he believes in emotional investments being critical in our twilight years, apart from the financial investments that we focus on. This lockdown, like it has been for many of us, has given him lots of time to be with his family and put on his thinking cap. I'm sure very soon he'll be out with a bag full of ideas and new projects. Let us find out more about this four-time Filmfare Award winner, apart from a multitude of recognitions that adorn his cupboard. This evening, it is my honor and pleasure to bring to all of you Madhavan, our very own Maddie.
Hello, ma'am. Thank you so very much.
Namaste. நீங்க என்ன மேம்னு கூப்பிட்டா நான் உங்களை மாதவன் சார்னு கூப்பிட வேண்டி வரும்.
சரி, நான் உங்களை சுதாஜினே கூப்பிடுறேன் நீங்க சொன்ன மாதிரி.
Welcome. I have to tell the audience that you have really made this evening possible with your presence straight from Dubai after a day's shoot, right?
Amma. Yes, ma'am. Sorry, you have to bear with my ma'am. அது வந்து என்னன்னா பழைய ஆர்மி ஹேபிட் அது லேஸ்ல போகாது. பட் நான் முடிஞ்ச வரைக்கும் உங்களை சுதாஜின்னு கூப்பிடுறேன். அதான். So today we were filming and now I'm back home and I'm really looking forward to this interview. Thank you very much for the flattering introduction. It sometimes feels embarrassing, but thank you very much. You're very kind.
That's why I didn't have you on screen.
Right.
Okay. A small bouquet, welcome bouquet. Just 1 minute of 2 kritis. 1, your first film, and 1 connected to your name.
Sure.
கண்டுபிடிச்சிட்டீங்களா என்ன பாட்டுன்னு? அலைபாயுதே மோகன வேணுகானமதில் அலைபாயுதே ஆனந்த மோகன வேணுகானமதில் அலைபாயுதே கண்ணா என் மனமிக அலைபாயுதே ஸ்ரீ மாதவ வாசுதேவா ஸ்ரீ மாதவ வாசுதேவா தேவாதிதேவ கேசவா ஸ்ரீ மாதவ வாசுதேவா.
Such a privilege to hear you live and in person.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, can we get into questions? Are you awake and alert?
Absolutely. Please fire away.
You seem to have been brought up mostly in the North, though with a South Indian upbringing and environment. So how much of Carnatic music has the family had and have you absorbed? What other music genres do you listen to?
At the offset, எல்லாருக்கும் வந்து திட்டுறதுக்கு முன்னாடி நீங்க சொன்ன மாதிரி நம்ம தமிழ்ல இது வந்து பேசலாம் அடிக்கடி, பட் பொதுவா இது வந்து ஆங்கிலத்துல தான் இருக்கும். ஸோ உடனே அதுல கமெண்ட் எழுதி ஏன் நீங்க தமிழ்ல பண்ணல, நீங்க தமிழ்காரங்களா இல்லையா அப்படின்லாம் கேட்கலாதீங்க. பிகாஸ் அது வந்து உலகம் முழுக்க பாக்குற எல்லா நேயர்களுக்கும் அது போய் சேரணும். So with that disclaimer, we will begin this. I was born and brought up in Jamshedpur in Bihar, and my parents were very particular about me being brought up as a proper Tamil boy. Bharatnatyam, which is the classical dancing, was something that was very important in my family. So my sister learned that. My mother was a dancer. My sister is a Kuchipudi and a Bharatnatyam dancer. But classical music, unfortunately for me, was a distant dream, because we used to hear a lot of these talents who came to Madras Assembly and Jamshedpur perform, from Dr. Balamurali Krishna to everybody who had come. But I unfortunately could not pick up onto it, and my regret in life is that I'm such a layman as far as Carnatic music, classical music is concerned.
Well, it doesn't matter. Inga matta genres kekrilla.
Yeah, then believe it or not, நான் வந்து எல்லா genres கேட்பேன். Dr. Balamurali Krishna and you and a lot of other people are my favorites. But if you ask me what is my favorite music to hear at any time, it probably would be country music. I don't know, strangely for a Tamil guy, country music seems to ring true with me quite a bit. But I do enjoy all genres of music, and I hear it with equal devotion every time I hear them. But left to me, I think it's a little bit of a Western influence in my life.
You have been actively involved with the NCC during your younger days, and you've also had training in the British Army, Royal Air Force, Royal Navy. How did this input for the armed forces come by? And have you been to any of the army postings to cheer up our soldiers, our jawans?
So let me answer the second part of the question. I'm actually looking forward to an opportunity to do that. I haven't had the privilege yet. But வீட்டில் இருக்கும்போது in Jamshedpur, my father used to believe that I was not very privileged. நீ சோம்பேறி, உன்னால இதெல்லாம் பண்ண முடியாது, நான் NCCலாம் இருக்கும்போது அப்படின்னு he used to say that quite often. about how he was a senior under officer and all the brilliant achievements that he had managed to do before he left college. And that stuck with my head. And so I told him, I said, I'll also do NCC one day. And he said, you cannot do it. You've been brought up very, very delicately and very privileged. But I remember when I got an opportunity to get into NCC in Maharashtra, when I was studying in a fantastic town called Kolhapur. I took it up, and I took it up as a challenge. And for 1 rupee, we had a bet between my father and I that I will be able to beat him in terms of his achievements in NCC. And he laughed, and he took that 1 rupee bet. And God's grace, I was able to actually achieve all that he had done in 2 years. And then I got selected as a youth exchange student to go and spend 6 months in England. And we were there at Atherton Air Force Base. We were there at Portsmouth Naval Base. And I forget the name of the territorial army base that we were there in, but it was fantastic. A really, thrilling experience for a 21-year-old guy, and understand the intricacies of how the defense works and how much of our defense takes after the British defense and the word of command and stuff like that. So it was an extremely enlightening experience and an unforgettable experience that has stood me in good stead for the kind of roles that I did in the movies later on in my life.
Is this connect also the reason why you named your production house Tricolor Films? I'm just guessing.
It's very sweet of you to notice that. I think there is a deep-rooted. Let's see, my father worked for Tata Steel. Okay, in fact, a lot of my family members work for Tata Steel, and there's a sense of loyalty and a sense of commitment to the people that you're employed with. So, in fact, believe it or not, in our puja room at home, you still have Jamshedji Nausharwanji Tata's photograph with a garland on it, and that's how every Jamshedpurian will understand that sort of a devotion that you have for your employer, who you spent, a large part of your life with. That's sort of I think I can't do that for Mani Sir. He'll kill me if I put up his photograph in my room. But you have a sense of, you want to have a sense of loyalty placed somewhere firmly. And I think for me, it's my country. It's India. It's the fact that I want to have everything I do associated with the fact that I am Indian. And I think Tricolor Films is one of the ways that I could show that I'm very Indian.
I can really connect to that thought because my Guru MLV Amma's photograph, I carry it everywhere. In my suitcase, a good photograph. And then at home, in my bedroom, everywhere. She's everywhere. So I can really connect thought of yours.
I'm glad.
Yeah, it's two of a kind, so it's fine. You began your career with modeling and television serials in Mumbai. Suddenly being picked from there and put into the Chennai scenario, Madras, with Mani Sir's set for Ale Payude. It's a total shift out of your comfort zone, is it? Was it? How long did it take for you to settle down really? This is my space. How long did it take?
I think I have an out-of-body experience when I look at what I have become. In a வாழ்க்கையில full if I had always wanted to be an actor, இதுதான் என்னோட நோக்கம், இதுதான் என்னோட aim, ambition அப்படின்னு நினைச்சிட்டு இருந்தா இந்த ஓரளவுக்கு திருப்தியோ, you'll find a sense of satisfaction, having reached where I am. But I am on an adventure, so that it's just crazy because none of this was anticipated, hoped for, or expected in my career. Nobody in my family far removed is even remotely attached to the film industry. Definitely not with the Tamil film industry or the Hindi film industry. So there's no singer from my family. There's no dancer from my family. There's no producer. Nobody. I mean, in my near family, I don't know anybody. So for me to get into a comfort zone as an actor itself, I don't think I've gotten over yet. And on top of that, suddenly become a television star in Hindi. And have people call out your name and ask them to, people asking you to sign autographs. All that itself was believe it or not, it's been 25 years now, I think. இன்னைக்கு கூட ஒரு அளவுக்கு எனக்கு கூச்சமா இருக்கும், எனக்கா எங்கிட்ட இருந்தா அப்படின்ட்டு என்னோட ஆட்டோகிராஃப் உங்களுக்கு வேணுமா அப்படிங்கிற ஒரு it's just I think I haven't gotten over the charm yet. So I think when I got an opportunity to jump from Hindi television to straight into Mani Ratnam's film as his hero, you can imagine the kind of the doe-eyed kid that I was on the set. It was incredible. It was like what happens to you if you get picked by Janaki on the very first day of your career and say, hey, you're going to sing on a stage with me on a kacheri. Can you imagine the kind of nervousness you would feel without any training, without feeling that you're worthy of being able to actually sing with her? And திடீர்னு எனக்கு வந்து மணிரத்னம் வைர மோதிரமால குட்டு கிடைச்சதுன்னு எனக்கு. And so it was I went on to the set, PC Sram sir பாப்போம், நம்ம ஷாலினியை பார்ப்போம், தொட்டாதர்ணி சார் எல்லாருமே இருக்கும்போது I just didn't know how to fathom the whole thing and enjoy it even, and I think ஒரு 10 வருஷத்துல அந்த மயக்கம் ஒன்றும் போகவே இல்லை. So I don't think I've actually adjusted to it.
உங்களுக்கு மயக்கம் போலையோ இல்லையோ எங்களை எல்லாரையும் மயக்கிட்டு இருக்கீங்களே. எங்களன்னு சொல்றதே ஆடியன்ஸ். Your first full-fledged film, Maddie, in Tamil was with an ace director, yes, and with Shalini, who was already well established with blockbusters, to her credit. That would have put on you greater pressure, I feel, to perform. See, அதாவது ரெண்டு பேரும் ஸ்கிரீன்ல ஒரே டைம்ல இருக்கு. She's like a pro. Not that you're not a pro, but you're just getting into it. So did you feel that kind of void in you? How do I go up to that point level? Or, you're always that situation crisis holder. You manage.
Fortunately for me, earlier on in my life, I've been into situations like that. Be it the NCC, be it public speaking, be it the many things that I did, competition wasn't new to me. But a very important part of your question, ma'am, it was not a competition when I went into Mani Sir's set. It was, nor did I feel inadequate in any way. I know that, I've been already in the industry, in the film industry, or the, let us say, television industry, for 6-7 years. I've done 1,800 episodes of work on Hindi before I moved to Tamil. I thought I knew the craft. I thought I knew, Mani Sir ena kooptirupanga oru nambikkiya enakku irundhuchu. So there wasn't any nervousness, and I think I was feeling anxious maybe that I'm going to act in front of Shalini, and somehow I've always said this before as well, but somehow when somebody says action, it's like how you hear the first swaram in your song, and you're not going to spend the next 2 minutes wondering what the word is going to be after the 2.5 minutes that you're going to sing. அது வந்து ஒரு flowல வந்துருது, and you're just thinking of the overall impact. If you focus on the lyrics, you're going to forget what you're going to sing. அப்படி இருக்கிறதுனால it all comes together when somebody says action to me. So Mani Sir அப்படி சொல்லும்போது it was just my instincts kick in, and it wasn't a competition, so I wasn't looking at a finish line. I just had to be Karthik. I just had to be what I was hoping and thinking and feeling and making it sound real. So, and Mani Sir was there to guide me. Adhanala, and I munadiye sollirken that I wasn't afraid of the film failing because there were so many big armors in front of me. There was Mani Ratnam, there was Shalini, there was A.R. Rahman, there was P. Sriram. All these stalwarts were ahead of me to take the flag. God forbid if the film hadn't done well. So the sense of nervousness wasn't there, but I enjoyed it. I think once I go into a trance when somebody says action, and by the time they say cut, I settle down to being Maddie, and I enjoy that process immensely.
Do you remember a dialogue from film?
Actually, I do. It's been done to death from Alai Paide, and I'm kind of like you said at the beginning of the show. People still refer to me as a chocolate boy, and people, I've tried hard. I've tried to grow a beard. I've tried to keep a white beard, and எல்லாம் பண்ணி பார்த்துட்டேன். அந்த கெட்டவனா வந்து பார்த்துருக்கேன், மொரடனா வந்து பார்த்துருக்கேன். பட் கடைசியில் ஐ திங்க் என்ன வந்து ஒரு சாக்லேட் பாயா தான் வந்து டூம் ஸ்டோன்ல போட போறாங்க போல இருக்கு.
Actually, chocolate boy க்கு நிறைய interpretation இருக்கு. Chocolate boy is that you're endearing, that people feel they can connect to you. See, I interpret it that way. It's not the way you think, all innocent and all chubby, and not that way.
Okay, that's thank you for the insight. Maybe I will start looking at it like that then.
So tell us about your experience of handling the film set with Mani Sir. I have heard that he's very demanding, that he loves perfection, that he wants it in a particular way. You have to work really hard towards that, Abdin. I mean, many other friends have told me that.
So, we're just carrying forward from the earlier part of the conversation when you called me a chocolate boy. And I have to tell you that I'm very fascinated by how you maintained your youth, and you look absolutely the same for the past 20 years. I don't know how you do that. It must be all your good karma and happy energy. Yeah, I'm talking about you. Yeah, you're fantastic. Well,
That's what lockdown
I'm
has
amazed.
done to me.
Yeah, lovely skin, and the way you maintain yourself is quite exemplary. So, all the compliments right back at you.
I'm not
On the set,
feel embarrassed at all.
sorry?
I don't feel embarrassed one bit.
No, it's not meant to. It's meant to be a compliment in all sense of the word.
Anala, I'm saying thank you with a big open heart.
Fantastic. Thank you. So, when I went to Mani Sir's set, he's very demanding. I think for people who are not prepared enough for his set, or who are awestruck by who he is and what he has done, sometimes what happens is you're overwhelmed on your set, and he doesn't. He's not paying you to be overwhelmed. He's making sure he's cast you because he wants you completely there. And then people who come with preconceived notions about how they should do a scene, or how they would like to be seen doing a Mani Ratnam scene. So he breaks all that stereotypical assumptions that we have about how we need to be presented in a Mani Ratnam film. Like I said, I was looking the gift horse in the mouth because I didn't expect to be an actor. I didn't expect to be cast by him, and I had nothing to prove. So I was quite not just unafraid, but I think I was quite bashful on his set. I was I would not toe the line in terms of reverence and stuff that people used to do, because they used to call him Mani Sir on the terrier, all kind of stuff. But for me, he was a fantastic director that I was privileged to work with, and the respect was there. But I don't think I was overwhelmed on the set ever, and plus I had him to thank for it, because he made the environment so easy for me to work. He put me and Shalini together, and we used to chat and talk and fight, and actually fight more than anything else. And he used to see the fight and then design the scenes according to the way we were actually arguing on the set. And PC Sir would again make it so easy for me to work. He will come and measure the light with his hand. He'll keep it near my face and say, light 5-6, 5-6, and then he'll come close to me and say, rehearsal nalla irundhuchu, the take nalla illa, konjam paathukka. He'll tell me, I can never forget those things. The whole team worked together to make Alaipaide happen the way it did. I think sometimes, when you're in your elements, the whole film just happens in a flow. I think Mani Sir also realizes that. I realized that over a period of time that, sometimes the film just comes together on its own, simply because it's meant to. You have the right people involved in it with all the right intent. Everybody is looking at the same story, and the focus is pretty pinpoint. And then so it becomes an easy film to complete. As far as Alaipaide was concerned, it was an easy film to do in terms of the creatives. It was difficult going all the way to Kashmir and shooting. It was difficult, in terms of the fact that there were other actors who were, trying to do their best, but not able to toe the line in terms of Mani Sir's expectation. But apart from that, it was an easy film to shoot.
How important do you think music is in your films? Do you feel that music can elevate a film notches above, or if the script is very good and so are the director and actors, music is just an extra accessory?
I have been very privileged to have some of the most iconic songs in Tamil cinema in my name, and I take no credit for it whatsoever. This is entirely the achievements of my director, the lyric writer, the music director, and the singers who made it iconic and almost immortal. And I have been very privileged to have certain songs, to my credit, that is identified by what I have done. But like I said, complete reverence and surrender to the people who are in charge of making that song. I feel that I feel that music cannot save a film, and I don't think a film can save music either. It's a very integral part of it. Songs in the film are used to transcend time and space, to either expand time or to reduce the storytelling period. And in the hands of a good director, in the hands of a good choreographer, in the hands of a good actor, it has the ability to become identifiable, become sort of a beacon for the film, I've become a kind of a legend in which this, your recollection value of the film increases tremendously because of music. And once it's sung very well, and once the singer feels what the actor is supposed to portray, on the actor feels what the singer was trying to express, and all of them are in tandem with what the lyric writer was trying to say, and finally, of course, what the director is trying to achieve. That one particular song can make the film that much more memorable, that much more memorable for a long time to come. And sometimes, unfortunately, if the film is not good and the song is exceptional, then you will still hear that song, but you'll realize that film let you down. You know that it's capable of evoking that memory as well. So, நல்ல song, அப்பா சொதப்பிட்டாங்க அப்படின்னுவாங்க. So that also is a possibility. Or they'll say, "What a lovely song," and they didn't shoot it properly. That's also an outcome that is possible when you're not in tandem with what is being said. So I feel that in Tamil, at least in Indian cinema, let me say it again, in Indian cinema, I think music is a very, 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 very integral part of the storytelling. And it's integral part of the storytelling, not just the movie. It's, the storytelling. And enough can't be said, and enough gratitude can't be expressed to the music directors and the singers and the lyric writers who go out of their way to make these songs. I don't think sometimes even they realize the kind of legendary stuff they're creating. Sometimes you just do ஒரு அலட்சியமா நம்ம வந்து பாடிட்டு போயிடுவோம், இல்ல அலட்சியமா லிரிக்ஸ் கேட்டு நம்ம மனசுல அப்போ வந்து இது பெரிய சாங் வருங்கிற நம்பிக்கைலாம் இருக்காது. ஆனா திடீர்னு வந்து கேட்டப்புறம் it suddenly become iconic. So I can't say enough about the merits of having music and the right song in your films.
You had a lot of international exposure during your younger days, be it through NCC or with your Hollywood exposure. How much the measure do you think such exposures help in building your career or a kind of progress on the journey that you are on?
Because I'm not a trained actor, because I don't know what it means to actually prepare for a role, I've always relied heavily upon my life experiences. So, be it my stint in Canada as a cowboy, or be it my stint as a public speaker in Japan, or my training in England, or my very privileged lifestyle in Jamshedpur, where I was born and brought up. At the same time, exposure to how Biharis live, and to going catching tadpoles and shit water, and flying kites, and getting into fights, getting out of fights, swallowing your ego and making up with friends, and also doing the crazy things that people do from small town. At the same time, have the privilege of studying in a place like Kolhapur, and in Mumbai, and then Chennai, coming to our holidays to Chennai all the time, traveling by bus to all the temples during our vacation. All these, and then spending a lot of time in Nanganallur, where my family used to stay, or go to Uppiliappan Kovil, or Madurai, or Tanjore, or Coimbatore, and spend our summer. All that contributed immensely in the kind of films that I have done. So not just my stint abroad, but my stint everywhere. And I didn't realize that life was preparing me to be an actor, which is one of the things that I'd like to tell people, that sometimes you just have to, take out the thick glasses that are in front of our eyes about which direction we should be heading. Have a look at it and suddenly realize life has got a better plan for you, and you should be receptive enough to understand what it means. And I think that happens beautifully. In my case, in the எல்லா exposures சேர்ந்து exposure எல்லாம் சேர்ந்து it contributed to the actor that I've become today.
From romantic roles, you suddenly transitioned to a completely a different kind of a role in Kanathil Muthamittal. The role, I think, brought in so much of seriousness, yet dignity and maturity to the character that you played so exceptionally well. Did a serious shift also happen within you to fit into that role?
You see, when Mani Sir offers you a role, you don't look and ask why, what, and why. You just want to make sure you do the film. That was the first thing that I approached the role that way. And for me, it was definitely a challenge, because I had just done a film called Alai Payude and Minne, and I was doing Kannathil Muthamittal, where I was playing the father of 3 children, one of them being adopted. Also, Kirtana was a fantastic actor, and Simran was my heroine, and in the sense, the main lead, the mother. So in the beginning, it was definitely, I was always wondering why me? Why have I been selected to this role? What about me has convinced Mani sir that I will be able to pull off a father like this? And that too a Tamil எழுத்தாளர். அது அதுவே தமிழ் சரியா பேச வராத கட்டாயத்திலேயே அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு பெரிய இலக்கியவாதியோட ஒரு ரோல் மாதிரி அவர் கொடுத்தாரு. So I had a lot of doubts in terms of how I will pull out a Tamil literary kind of a guy. At the same time, a father. But with Mani sir, you're convinced, very well one thing, that in all his films up till until then, there was no actor ever accused of not performing correctly. So he makes sure that everybody is convincing, and that was one of the biggest strong points and a lot of, let us say, faith I had in the way Mani sir was going to handle me. And second thing was, I was going to observe Mani sir intently, because he had a lovely way with children. Children enjoyed doing his film. He enjoyed working with children on the set. And there was Kirtana, there was his son Nanda, who would come onto the set, who was around the same age at that time. And so for me to look at all of them and see how Mani sir dealt with it became a great insight into how maybe I could behave like a father. So I actually imitated and copied Mani sir completely during Kanathal Muthamittal. Of course, I didn't allow my life experiences to come into the role of Thirichalvan to make it, more real. But apart from that, I think, even though there was a bit of romance in the film with Simran and me, but largely he was a very understanding father, and I had to, for example, I had no dialogues in the climax. I just had to be there and make the presence felt, let the other people perform. So I learned a lot during those kind of situations in my life, and it was very weird to be a hero, an alpha male, and not have anything to say in the last scene or the climax of the film. But it's a lovely understanding about who you are and know that you're capable of being quiet when you're required to keep quiet, and just be there and be the support. And I'm very thankful for those kind of early life experiences as a film actor that I got thanks to films like Kanthal Muthamittal and Anbe Sivam.
Partale Paravasam and Dear KB Sir, what does that mean to you?
Oh, I look back at my career and I look at how lucky I am to have the privilege of, forget about working, but even having met the legends that I had the awesome good fortune to meet and work with. And KB Sir is right up there. A man who broke all the rules, who was fearless in his storytelling, who was educated, who was perceptive, who was intelligent, who had the ability to, break stigma and blatantly tell stories that were true. At the same time, others would have, shivered to even approach. But he did it with elan, and he did it with a kind of brilliance that makes it work even today for us when we watch those movies. And so to have and then of course for my naive mind, he was a guy who also introduced Kamal Sir and Rajini Sir. So the possibility that maybe I am the third one in that in that sequence was also an exciting aspect of working with Balachandar Sir. Of course, I learned very quickly after that I was nowhere in that league, but I was going to, I'm going to cherish every moment working with Balachandar Sir, because it was his 75th film. But KB Sir was astonishingly astute, sharp, and perceptive at that age, at 75. The amount of awareness that he had, the presence that he had on the set, spectacular. I mean, I wish I could be like him. Even 10% of what he was capable of at that age when I started doing my movie with him. And clear and lucid, very enviable aspects of somebody's mind at that age. And he was just brilliant. And so it was a complete privilege, and I will never forget my days with him.
Sharing space in a film with peers or even superstars, I think is very natural to you. It's obvious that there has to be supreme confidence in oneself and, of course, a strong focus on what you're doing. But still, I have to ask you this question. How did you handle that star presence beside you?
Like I said in the beginning of the interview, the awe and the shock is always there. Be it Balachandar Sir or Mani Sir or Shalini or Kamal Sir or Mr. Bachchan, it's the awe and shock does never go. It doesn't go even now. Okay, but I had somehow programmed myself to completely disengaged from my environment the moment action is called. So I go into a sort of into a shell of just being the character that I'm playing. I try very, very hard to do that without letting Madhavan creep into it, And only when Madhavan creeps into it do you feel the awe or the fear or the nervousness. But if I don't allow that, then I remember there was a scene in Anbe Sivam that required me to slap Kamal Sir, okay, and make physical contact. So he said, no, you should slap me. And I said, yeah, cool, no problem. And I did it in one take. And everybody came and said, how did you feel about slapping Kamal Sir? Did you feel nervous? I'm like, was I supposed to feel nervous? I don't understand. I didn't understand that for somebody else, it would have been a very, very embarrassing, cringy, disrespectful thing that they were doing to Kamal Sir, and they would have to, think about it twice. For me, it wasn't that. It was just, I just don't even know. It was Anbe slapping Nala Sivam, so it happened. And so after the take, everybody pointed out to me, and I became very nervous after that. But Kamal Sir was a darling. He would never make me feel anything or any form of disrespect. He never made me feel that I showed him any disrespect at all. So, like I said earlier, it's just a switch off. The moment action is called, I'm a different guy.
Do remakes have the same kind of impact as the original ones? You consciously did not do Nanban in Tamil after you did Three Idiots in Hindi. Neither were you in the Telugu remake of Iruthi Sutru, while you were a part of the very beautiful Nala Damayanti that was remade as Ramji London Wale, for which you wrote the dialogues as well. So, how do you feel in your mind about these remakes, and why don't you do some of them?
When I did Minnale was made into Rehna Hai Tere Dil Mein in Hindi, and Ramji London Wale was remade in Hindi as Nala Damayanti was remade in Hindi as Ramji London Wale. During the process of making those films, I realized that I wasn't really being able to be in the moment because I was constantly trying to either better myself or at least recreate the same magic that I had done on the other version. So even in Minnale or in Nala Damayanti, trying to get the scene as good, if not better, as opposed to the original was one of the concerns that I had as an actor, even after action was called. And I wasn't happy with that feeling. I wasn't going with the flow. It's like, how you will get into a particular mood when singing a classical song, and you realize that you just want to press a little more on it that day. But if you try to recreate what you did 3 days ago, it was worked very well, you'll realize you become very artificial today, and you're neither there nor here. It happens to me to actors as well. So you want a free flow in terms of how you perform as an actor. And even though the films were appreciated, in my mind, it became a big, tedious, demanding situation for me. So a film like Three Idiots, which had become iconic in Hindi, and we all had to look that age, age specific. I had to be, early 20s and then I'll move on to late 30s and early 40s. I didn't have the confidence that I would be able to do it, with a different set of people and try to recreate the same magic I have. So in my mind, I was always thinking, don't screw it up so badly as to take away the credit from your original performance in the first place. All those fears were there. And I didn't think it was, I think I weighed the options, and I didn't think the odds against me enjoying that process was any there. So I had to very humbly request Shankar sir to let me go out of that one, and I don't regret it, simply because I know even if the film had done a great amount of good for me as an actor, I wouldn't have enjoyed the process. I would have been extremely nervous throughout it.
Iruthi Sutru, adha patti solunga. It was a complete turnaround again as regards your image. We saw stern Maddie there. Script was by Sudha Ragunathan.
Yes.
It was outstanding, Maddie. That movie was really outstanding.
Thank you.
Did you play a role in giving some shape to the script as well?
I think I had a little bit of a hand in some aspects of the script, but without taking away any credit from Sudha, who actually came up with the concept of the story and the screenplay. I have to say that the entire credit of making that film happen the way it did has to go to Sudha, and she lived through hell trying to make that happen, because both of us realized that we were trying to sell a story that the industry was not ready to listen to. Where the main lead is they're actually a young girl who's a boxer, where there's no romance the way we've seen it in films, where the songs are different. At the same time, I being one of the producers was not insisting on getting the main role and having to let the girl perform. And so a lot of my distributors said, it's her film, so we can't pay you that kind of money. Or they said don't have the title as Iridi Sutri. It's a very negative title, and they were all saying in my interest. Tamil and the Iridi Sutri is such a negative title, is what they told me. But for me and Sudha, her belief, we heard the title and we knew that was the right title. And our producer Sashi was completely on with us. He said, "Yeah, I mean that's the title you want. That's the title it's going to be." So from there to, I've always had the privilege of living with some very strong women in my life. My sister, my mother, my wife. All of them are no nonsense women. They look silent and they are very feminine in their approach, but they're strong, very very strong people. And I have stood behind and watched their bravery, and I watched their guts and total admiration. I know I can't be half as brave and gutsy as them at times. And so I met another woman like that. Sudha was one of those women, who would go into the chawls and shoot like she was born and brought up there, and that was amazing. So I knew I was in good hands. I knew I was in the hands of a director who knew exactly what she wanted, and I had my inputs in terms of the screenplay and how the characterizations have to flow with respect to my respect in the my experience in the industry. But it was a fantastic privilege, and finally. How can we not talk about the girl, Ritika, who's another strong personality that I've met in my life. A thorough boxer, physically strong, mentally strong, and she got the national award, and she truly deserved it, and gave me an insight into the fact that people can be born actors. You don't have to go to acting schools and be trained by maestros to be able to perform as an entertainer. We picked her up from actually MMA ring with absolutely zero experience in acting. And she not only acted in Tamil, she did the whole film, one shot in Hindi and one shot in Tamil, and not understanding Tamil as a language, which is not even forget her second or third language. She's never heard Tamil, barely speaks Hindi as good as she, as other languages. And so considering the fact and the change and the transformation that she went through for that film and the way they interacted with each other, Sudha and Ritika were brilliant. So for me to just produce it and see, and I had to go into a physical transformation myself to look like a aged ex-boxer. All that were great challenges. I was very happy with the way I transformed myself. And it all in all became a very unforgettable film in my life.
This next question is a general one, but kind of tricky, for various reasons. What are some striking differences between Kollywood, Bollywood, Hollywood? Does Hollywood stand apart for some reason?
Sulaji, there is no difference between any of these industries. The only difference is amongst the producers and the way the projects have been conceived and the reason they have been conceived or being made. So if the overall conglomeration of people who are actually part of a film are intending to go in a particular direction and everybody is pulling in the same direction, that becomes a happy set to work with. If people's intent are somehow different, have ulterior motives, for instance, or have are of the opinion that the older way of making films are going to work, and they're trying to pull in every different direction, trying to make themselves aspirational in terms of a particular movie. Hello.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring
lost you, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
There you are. Sorry. For a moment. So if that's the only difference, I think it's from production to production there is a difference. There's no major difference between industry to industry. Every industry has made some exceptional, historical films, and so I've had the privilege of working and being part of those films. So there isn't much difference between the industry per se. There is a lot of difference in the intent of making a project.
Do sequels, prequels give an impetus to a film? In the sense, can the same success be continued or the same magic be repeated once again? You know what I'm getting? Tanu and Manu.
Yeah. Well, I think I think Tanu and Manu is an exception. Sort of like, we did the same story, an extension of what was happening in the earlier film 4 years later, in physical time as well as in the story timeline. It was 4 years later, which was a unique achievement on behalf of the actors and the cast and the writer and the director of that film. But I'm of a very biased opinion that some remakes and prequels and sequels are only a money churning effort and not really an intent to tell a story, in all honesty. Although, I would reserve that comment for some of the Hollywood films that I have seen, like
Right.
the Star Wars sequences and stuff like that, which have been equally good and impactful. But, in Tamil film, I've yet to see a sequel that I'm so churned or so excited about as opposed to the original. And in Hindi, I think Munna Bhai Lage Raho was slightly better than Munna Bhai MBBS, and definitely Tannu Manu Returns made a lot more money as opposed to the original Tannu Manu, and is considered an iconic film in terms of return on investment. But I'm very skeptical doing films that have not been etched out as a prequel or sequel from the very beginning. When they become an afterthought after the success of a film, I become very nervous associating with that.
In the making of Rocketry, which is completely your film, you met Dr. Nambi Narayanan and had so many startling revelations from this unassuming soul who has rocketed our countries standing in space missions. It made you rewrite the script, did it?
Yeah, because like all preconceived notions and how the media portrays a particular individual, I was also taken up by the fact that he was a good-looking man who seemed to have had an affair with a Maldivian woman, and then of course sold secrets of Indian rocketry to Pakistan, which was a story that most people knew. And of course, as an actor, it gave me the opportunity to see if I could, I was a rocket scientist, and then there was, beautiful Maldivian women involved, and there was secrets and espionage and stuff like that. So I assumed it would be a James Bond sort of a film, for me to do. And when Mr. Anant Mahadevan brought the story to me, I was blown, and I asked all the stupid questions about whether he really had an affair. Did it really matter to me? It's only when I went and met Nambi Sir that my whole life changed completely, and it dramatically changed. I mean, my perception of what patriotism actually is, and about who the real patriots are, and what kind of sacrifices they make, and how do they get changed after the sacrifices is demanded of them. Uh, Things like how, you know difficult questions that they have to ask if you're a genius and a patriot. What happens to you? I mean, do you limit your patriotism to doing right only for the people in your country, or do you choose between using your genius to help overall humanity by working for somebody else? What is the right thing to do? Is it right to help humanity, or is it right to help just your country? Those are the questions they have to ask themselves, and fend for themselves, and then they get betrayed by the people, the very people that they're working for, or actually ignored in our case. And so for me, it just turned out to be a life mission. I don't think I've ever felt so involved, so committed, so completely engrossed. I've got all out for this film. I used all my money. I think I've used all my resources. Everything that I've learned in my life, I think has gone into. Uh, Fortunately or unfortunately, I will say that now because the film hasn't released yet. But I have gone into, I've direct, I had fortunately, again, I'm saying, I had to direct this film, produce it, write it, act in it. Only the outcome of the film will determine, but I'm also a satisfied, happy man.
We
I
wish you
just
all the
can't wait
best.
to tell Mr. Nambi. Thank you. I just can't wait to tell the world about Mr. Nambi Narayanan, and I can't wait for India to hear his story.
Well, I'm sure the audience is waiting for this film. So, wish you all the best again. At home, how much is Savita involved in your work? Do you seek opinions? Is she your good critic or worst critic, or you sit with her when you have doubts about scripts, whether you want to work on something or not? How's it?
Well, I'm Sarita has been a great supporter of my work. She's not influenced or biased as an industry person. She watches every movie. like an audience does. Okay, and she's very she doesn't know how to be delicate about how she feels about a movie, or how to be diplomatic about expressing yourself when you go to see a movie. And so I don't often take her to see movies because it's written all over her face how much she likes the film. And for me, it's become a great litmus test as well as a yardstick to judge my films. She's never been wrong. In fact, and all the 78 films that I've done, she's seen the film, and I don't have to hear what she says. I can look at her face. I know how the film is going to do, unfortunately. And I have to say, unfortunately, because a lot of my films haven't done well. When she when she came out, saying, "Hey, where is the toilet? I want to go to the toilet." I know the film is done for when she comes out of the theaters. Yeah, but at times she has just sat in the theater and looked at the film and just looked at me with admiration. And I know those films have become historical and quite punctuated in my career. I remember her reaction after Three Idiots. I was looking at her and I was like, "Hey, tell me what you think. What do you think? What do you think? How do you like it?" And she's like, "Irukriya konja gamman irukkiya. Can you just leave me alone with this film for some time?" I'm like, "Oh, okay." So, Irudhi Sutru, Three Idiots, Alai Payude, Minnale. Minnale, I remember her coming out and giving me a tight hug and saying, "Oh my God, you're so cute." So I knew that those are the kind of reactions that helped me on my way. But she's definitely a large contributor onto in my life, and I'm very thankful. I can say this to you because she doesn't see these interviews of mine, but I can say I'm very thankful because she makes it very easy for me to follow my job without having to worry about the rest of my aspects of my life. My parents and my son and his studies and his swimming and my finance, all that she very, very, and running my house, which she's bloody good at. All that, I don't think I can do. She just lets me be as an actor and lays around and wallow if the film flops, and be exuberant if the film fails, and indulge into direction, acting, and production, even if I don't have the right to, with all our money. She just lets me do all that, and I'm very grateful for that.
You took a sabbatical a while ago to reinvent yourself, or how would you like to call that? But we out there in the world saw another side of you being honed as a motivational speaker. How much
Yeah, I don't
influence did
think.
you have on
Sorry,
the audience
yeah.
when you spoke?
I'm sorry, I missed your question, ma'am.
No, I just said you spoke as a motivational speaker. How much of influence could you infuse into the audience?
That I think you'll have to ask the audience. I have not.
இல்ல
I haven't.
அவளோட ரியாக்ஷன் பார்த்தாலே தெரிஞ்சிருமே.
Well, all I can tell you is போக போக இன்னும் அதிகமாயிட்டு இருக்கு. அது அந்த மாதிரி ஸ்பீச்சஸ் கூப்பிட்டு இருக்காங்க. So maybe they are able to find some merit in what I'm saying. But I have never vied to look at it as a profession or as a side business for me. It is because I don't really utter stuff that I don't believe in. It's always I've been fortunate enough to have the gift of the gab, so I'm able to very clearly express what I feel, and I'm able to analyze what I've been through. I've been able to analyze situations and present them in a manner that is understood by people. And that sometimes turns out to be real life experiences that might help people and keep them motivated. Okay. But to say that I have gone out of my way to learn to speak like a motivational speaker, and I do that and say things that I don't necessarily believe in, might not be true. So maybe I will eventually soon run out of things to say. I will eventually soon run out of, my life experiences to share, and that is a clear and present danger. But I enjoy sharing my experiences with people. That sabbatical that I took, was a great insight into what the world is changing into. Post the social media era, post the Facebook and the world and Instagram. I'm sure your world has changed. We're doing this on which we never thought would have imagined under normal circumstances.
Yes.
And thanks to COVID era, everybody's priorities are changing. People are looking. So it's very important to take that one step back and, relook around yourself to see how the world has changed and whether you're hanging on to stuff and fighting challenges that have no relevance in today's world. And I was doing that. I was feeling insecure about the fact that I wasn't able to dance like, the other peers that were able to, act and dance and have six packs and fly through the air and do stuff. And I was made to feel that, the industry has no place for people like me. And then I realized that I was dealing with people who with respect to whom my intelligence was far higher. I'm sorry to say that, but it was true. On that particular field, I won't say that I'm more intelligent than anybody else in all fields. Everybody has a specialty in terms of how they can be intelligent, spatial intelligence or navigation. I've talked about this before. But as far as storytelling was concerned, I realized I had a fair bit of flair to it, and people were putting me in a box that they were used to seeing actors in. So I had to take a step back, break that mold, as I'm sure you did too. As I'm a singer, you would have realized that you have to break old protocols and come up
Yes,
with things that make
yes,
sense to you.
yes.
And you hope and pray that people relate to that, and it's fantastic how they relate to it, right? So that was what I was trying to go into with my break, and then also just recording that and making that into a process by which I was explaining to people what I did kind of became my motivational speech.
So I'm just going to mention a few names of people who have asked questions and present that question to you. Shilpa Ravi, which part of Mumbai culture is still prevalent in Maddie? Or is
Which
it
part of
Junction
Mumbai?
Mumbai culture?
Uh, I think
Eating
the
vada pav.
sorry.
Eating vada pav.
Eating vada pav, yeah, and start looking like one vada pav by the end of it. But I think the ability to celebrate festivals, kind of loudly and pompously, and the Ganapatis and the Visarjans and Holi and Diwali are like a very vibrant way of celebrations that happen in the north as opposed to the south. So that has become a very integral part of our lives, for my life at least. Holi being a festival that is celebrated with great mirth and excitement in Bombay has become a very integral part of the culture that I can never forget. Also, for instance, if you look at small practical things in Bombay, everybody loves to hug each other. It's not uncommon to see people you met for the first time also hug each other. Like, "Oh boy, how are you doing? Bye." That's how they speak. And I brought that culture over to Tamil industry. So when I met Mani Sir or Balachandra Sir, for instance, for the first time, I went and hugged him, and everybody was shocked on the set, and they all looked at me like I'd gone nuts. But strangely, he kind of liked it, and the next time I came onto the set, he came and said Madhu, and he used to hug me, and everybody realized that I brought a little bit of Bombay culture to Balachandra Sir's set.
Krishnan asks, how do you prepare for your role? Do you get some time or do you take some time to get into a role? Prep time.
I take time. I mean, that's yeah. Oh, serious amount of prep time. In fact, it's not an option. I mean, I get paid for that, and that's exactly what I do. So what you see me in terms of the amount of effort I put in front of the camera is only probably 30% of the prep that I actually do to get into the role. So be it Alai Paide, it's not a conscious sitting down on the desk and saying this is what I am going to do. But when you read the script, you make these mental notes, you write down things that you want to do, you practice some attributes of that character. You start infusing your life experiences into the scenes that you think you can make it more real by doing all those things. And it's a rigorous process that starts from the time I go to the bathroom early in the morning till the time I take my last sip of water before I go to sleep. If my wife sees a far off look in my eyes, she knows I'm preparing.
You are very inclined towards causes for environment, health, education. Environment is a larger than life story, and we're still not seized by the gravity of damage that we as human beings have done to nature. I have also adopted some water bodies under a project called Amrutavashini, and we cleaned up
Lovely.
spruced up 2 lakes in Thiruvayar.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a long process. It's a complicated process, but nevertheless, I think each one of us should work towards doing something within our, space. So, what's your advice to citizens to protect the environment?
Sudhaji, there is no doubt whatsoever that these are not causes anymore. If there's no option, there is no There is no, oh, I want to get into a good cause. Let's look at environment. This is going to become your survival. And I think each and every one of us have to seriously look around and see the amount of serious damage we're doing to our own way of life, you know. And I'm telling you what's going to happen in the next 10, 15 years. Physical boundaries between countries is going to disappear. People are going to find their own cocoon to live with and maintain their individual identity or communal identity or community identity. And you will realize that one thing that will be common to all of those communities that survive would be cleanliness, would be hygiene, would be respecting the environment, would be indulging in more and more vegetarian food and non-violent behavior. All that is going to become an extraordinarily important tool in your basic survival much sooner than the world imagines. Much, much sooner. And you will understand a lot of importance about our Indian culture, you know, a lot of things that we do as part of our culture that has been very strangely and thankfully adopted by every religion that's prevalent in India. And now you suddenly realize, oh, everybody is following it up, especially in the COVID era. I don't want to go and state the obvious, but you know, in the COVID era, you suddenly realize all this is part of our tradition and culture, any which ways. So to respect environment, to know that your time on this earth is limited, and the biggest responsibility that you have today, and for your sake, and without which you're absolutely insignificant, is that you have to leave the generation after you, for your child, for your grandchild, a world that they'll be able to happily survive in. And I'm telling you, no man who ever invented the nuclear bomb or the atom bomb is claiming today that he was my proud grandfather. You know, I'm telling you, those things don't exist. They will say I'm Einstein's son, but I don't think too many people want to say that we were responsible for those kind of things. So you don't want to be one of those people. You don't want to be you have to make it a point to for your mere survival, because as you grow older, the only thing that will matter to you is your legacy. And if your legacy is flawed and faulted, you will be in hell while you live on earth, and I don't think I can live with that.
Mhm. Thank you for that lovely message. We're going to a short round of short questions, shorter answers, and then I'll let you go. Your most
Thank you.
favorite
Please let me
vacation
know
spot? என்னது என்ன சொல்ல
please
வந்தீங்க?
let me know if I'm speaking too much.
இல்லவே இல்ல. Your most
Okay, right.
favorite vacation spot?
My bedroom. Really.
Oh.
I sleep like a baby there. That's the only place I actually rest. If I go to a vacation, there are responsibilities that I have to, you know, நாளைக்கு இங்க போலாம், இங்க போலாம், அது பண்ணணும், இங்க சாப்பிடலாம், அங்க போலாம் அப்படிங்கிறது. For me, I'm a lazy bum. You leave me in my bed and say you don't have to get up early tomorrow morning. That's my vacation.
Wow. How important are pets to you? You are apparently the
Pets?
award pet. PETS?
They are the greatest recharging ports in my life every day. You know, I get up in the morning, they make me feel wanted and loved and exciting about living and alive. And while going to bed in the evening, there is an immense amount of love, irrespective of what has happened to me during the day. I think it's God's blessing that I have these animals that adore me so much.
Your most loved sport?
Golf right now, because probably that's the only game I can play with some proficiency nowadays.
What strikes you about people when you meet them first?
Their manners, their ability to deal with people who are not as important as them. For me, that's a great, somehow a very important aspect of how I'm prejudiced with people. And if I see them with grace and handle, people who are not as important as them with equal grace, they find favor in my heart immediately.
I'm sure you watch a lot of films. Has there been one film that you've gone back to watching several times?
No, not really. I'm not one of those guys. I comprehend very quickly and quite enormously when I am into something. So I always claim that I can tell my directors every aspect of the script once they've narrated it to me with nuances. I remember it like almost a photographic memory. So when I see a movie, I pretty much have juiced it out completely. I don't feel the requirement or the need to see it again and again.
Your most recently read book?
I'm not much of a reader, man. I gather a lot of knowledge with my audio, video, and the YouTube and Google and stuff. But I don't read much books. I'm very ashamed of that.
Have you ever felt challenged? இதை என்னால செய்ய முடியுமா அப்படின்னு?
All the time and never, actually. All the time when I have to to take my first step, when I go to the set for the first time, I feel completely naked. I feel like everybody is passing judgment on me. And, I create every moment as a challenge that keeps me alive and young. At the same time, I don't let it overwhelm me. I'm firmly on the driver's seat and I know how to handle it. But there are times when life throws curveballs at you. The COVID era and the lockdown was a curveball. And so you fall back on your life experiences to help you get out of it. But I have to tell you that despite all this, it's been very, very tough on all of us to just maintain our sanity and get through this, this crazy time, this pandemic that has infected the world. And I think a lot of spirituality helps in helping you tide by it.
Your most cherished compliment?
That I often hear this with people, and they tell me I remind them of one or the other relative or friend or brother of theirs. The relatability that they seem to find in who I am is a big compliment to me.
அதுதான் நான் சொன்னேன், சாக்லேட் பாய்க்கு அதுதான் அர்த்தம்.
Right.
Your unforgettable fan moment?
Oh, one of my friends, one of my fans asked me to get married to his wife in front of the camera, just because she was a huge fan apparently of mine, and he had a thali in his hand, and he wanted me to tie a thali kind of a photograph for her. And I thought, what an amazing guy. He was naive. He was from a small town, but I was more impressed by him than his wife as a fan. I thought he was a bigger fan of his wife than she was of me.
He wanted to make her happy, right?
Your first crush.
Your first crush?
Oh, I think it was my math teacher in the 4th standard. She had amazingly beautiful face and long hair, and I failed in maths ever since that.
If God came before you and said, I can change you to something else, would you like that, or would you like to be married?
I would probably ask him for a little more fitness in terms of all the things that I can't afford to do right now simply because I'm 50 and have the opportunity to do. Like I want to go surfboarding, I want to fly kites, kiteboarding. I want to do things that I couldn't afford to do when I was young, but in God's beautiful world, He's created these opportunities that I would like to enjoy. But that is the smallest little wish that I have from Him. But in all honesty, when I go to sleep every night, the only overwhelming feeling that I have is that of gratitude. So I don't think I can ask Him much.
Describe Maddie in 3 words.
3 words?
3 words in the sense.
I can't hear you for some reason. I lost it.
3 traits.
Okay. Evolving, impatient, perceptive.
Wonderful. And that brings us to the close of this session, Maddie. Truly awesome. Thank you for your patience and for being willing to come on the show after a shoot. I know it's not easy to get out of that. என்னை வந்து கச்சேரி முடிஞ்ச உடனே ஒரு கான்வர்சேஷனுக்கு வான்னு சொன்னா எனக்கு எப்படி இருக்கும் அது மாதிரி. Because you're still in the concert and you want to kind of relive those moments. So I know what it is, and I think you've been extremely gracious, telling us, sharing with us all your experiences, and I'm sure more hearts have been broken today.
I have to say that I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Even though it's been after a shoot, it's been very, very enlightening and rejuvenating for me, simply because you showed so much grace, Sudhaji, in listening to all I had to say, and you gave me the time and you didn't hurry me, which is always a privilege when one is stuck in a train of thought. And very rarely do you get people who interview like you've done. You're quite a professional that way. Thank you so very much for all the love and the respect.
Thank you, and wish you all the very, very, very best.
Thank you, and to you too. I look forward to meeting in person.
Thank you. Wow, wasn't that an amazing evening? And today we are more late. We've, I think, had very few conversations at 8 p.m. Happy that I could bring to you a beautiful closure to a Friday. Wishing you all happy and a safe weekend. SMS, remember, sanitizing, mask wearing, social distancing. Let's not go berserk now that the lockdown has been relaxed. It's up to each one of us to be responsible, not only for ourselves, but the people around us. So until next week, see you all. Catch you later. Bye.